if the entire premise of the game like hinges on like making fun of the lyrics, right? Like to show you what's happening on screen, because that's what they do in Elite Beat Agents, right? Like they did September by Earth, Wind, and Fire, and it's like chasing them clouds away, and they literally chase clouds away in the game, right? So,
I didn't play Elite Beat Agents. I only played a
Oh.
Windon, so that's all I know about.
Elite Beat Agents
But hey,
is fun.
let's get started. Let's go ahead and get into it.
Oh, Brad, didn't you know that was our intro? Welcome to the Level Cap Podcast, featuring Marco DeSantos, and welcome back to Brad, who came back from PAX Unplugged. I'm sure he has a lot of stories to tell.
Yay! I'm back. Back
Level-
like Terminator.
You said that in the wrong accent, though. Rather, you said it in no accent.
Oh yeah, okay. I guess probably more back like Ace Ventura or something.
Okay.
Is that more how does my voice come out over this thing? You know, you always hear your voice in first person. You never really know how it sounds on the other side of the podcast.
Yeah, I mean,
except when I listen to the podcast.
exactly.
Which I don't often do.
Here's the thing.
Because I was there
Brad.
the first time.
Here's the thing, Brad. Here's the thing.
What?
I can't give you a frame of reference because I've never heard your voice from your point of view. So how can I like?
Well, okay, but if you were gonna pick like a voice actor or a character or something that I sound the most like, who would you pick?
You sound like whoever did Hikaru for our game, but like 20 years older. That's kind of what it sounds like.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, so you still kind of sound like a little bit like a shonen protagonist because your voice is a little bit like high, not low, but you can obviously tell it's not a young voice. So like that's
interesting. Okay, I'll have to. I guess I'll have to look through these podcasts to listen to one.
Yeah,
I only listen to the ones that I'm not on.
Like the one with Cameron last week.
Yeah.
All right. Oh wait, by the way, Brad, we forgot.
Mm-hmm.
Level 99 games, things, and otherwise.
You don't have to do it just because it's the catchphrase, right?
No.
The best catchphrases insert themselves.
Brad, you have to understand that the editing doesn't work otherwise. Because I insert
or otherwise.
Oh my gosh, I insert the music after we say that word. I mean, like when the word is not there, where do I insert the music?
But it's not some kind of it's not like there's an AI that inserts the music, right? You could physically insert the music anywhere you wanted to.
Brad.
You just have to decide for yourself. You have to find the otherwise in your heart, Marco. We're the level 99. We bring the level 99 games, but our listeners know that the otherwise always exists.
Oh.
You can find it within yourself.
Oh my gosh. It's in you. It was in you all along.
Believe it.
Oh, this reminds me of a great story. You were there, you know this. So for all of you who aren't on the Level 99 Games Discord, there was a point in time where we all talked about like how everybody has their own edgy edgelord phase where they like pretend they're really cool or something like that. And I think it was me or somebody in the chat said like, you know, it's so I guess we were kind of all like Sasuke at some point in time. And then you literally type, there's a little bit of Sasuke in us all. So that's
yeah.
Immortalized.
It's Naruto, good stuff. I haven't watched anything past Shippuden, or I haven't watched Shippuden, so
that's fine.
I don't know where it's at these days.
Oh, it's done. So let me give you a quick recap in under 2 sentences.
Well, I'll just watch it myself someday when I have unlimited free time.
Which never happens, Brad, because you continue to make more games.
But you're also you don't want to spoil it for all our listeners. Maybe they're still watching it.
Well, no, spoiler-free summary. You want to hear it?
Okay, sure.
Naruto finishes, his son takes over. That's it.
Okay. I see.
Now there's a new show called Boruto.
About his son. Yeah. I think that's good. I always like it when an anime actually finishes cleanly, and then they like bring in the new series, and it's this like the same continuity, but it's a different main character, because you can only explore one main character so much, right?
Yeah, especially after like 200 something episodes. Jeez.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh. So Brad, tell me, I'm very interested in one thing about you tonight,
Okay.
and that's how your trip was to PAX.
PAX South was a lot of fun. We got to meet some cool people. We got to talk about some games. We got to assist a designer on his miniatures game. I got to what else did I got to play a bunch of video games. There's some really cool indie games coming out soon, and got to hang out with a couple friends. I got to meet the guys from Gruff, the Rage of the Battle Goats, or it's something of the Battle Goats, and I think it's Gruff Clash of the Battle Goats. This is a fun game. You should check it out.
Clash of the Battle Goats?
Yeah. I also got to hang out with David Serlin, the creator of Yomi and Fantasy Strike. They were showing off his new video game there. And
Fantasy Strike? Was the video game Fantasy Strike?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh,
and
I've heard of this.
It was a good time. We talked about this game on the podcast.
No. I'm talking about the Battle Goats game. I've heard about.
Oh yeah, Gruff. Yeah.
Yeah. I've heard it. I've heard it. I've actually considered backing it, but then I was like, I have no money, so.
Well, it's kind of neat. It plays sort of like this 3v3 MOBA type thing. Anyway, it's cool. It's a cool game.
It actually plays a lot like It plays like a lot of those games on mobile that are like, you have three heroes, quote unquote, on your side, and three heroes, quote unquote, on the opponent's side, and you like try to fight each other with like cards and stuff. It feels a lot like those kinds of games. I mean,
yeah,
it's fun.
I think so.
Yeah, it was fun.
It's cool. You should check it out. Check out Gruff Clash of the Battle Goats. This is not an ad, just a shout out to a friend. Anyway, but yeah, it was a good trip, and got to hang out with Chris Solis, the creator of Temporal Odyssey. Got to hang out with Trey Chambers, the creator of Imperial, Spells of Steam. Spent a lot of time playing those games and working on stuff, and and then we came back. That's a show.
Or did you guys have like special events at the booth or something like?
We ran a tournament for Exceed. We ran a tournament for Noir Automata. That's about it.
Whoa! What game mode did you guys do for Noir's tournament?
Noir? It's always Killer Inspector, and tournament is a little generous. Like it's kind of a teaching tournament. Like we get everybody together, we play a few games of Noir, we give out prizes. It's good fun. It's not too like deeply competitive. The Exceed one's competitive, and we gave out prizes for Exceed. But yeah.
Who ended up winning that? Who ended up winning the Exceed one?
Oh, I haven't gotten the photos back yet, so I have to check in with Chris, who was organizing all the tournaments, and get that back.
Oh, okay. So,
yeah.
Oh man, it sounds like you had an exciting weekend last week when you were at PAX.
It was fun. It was real fun.
While you were away, Cameron and I played a lot of BattleCon Online and junk.
BattleCon Online looking so good.
Oh yeah, and I think you were really surprised because when you got home from PAX, suddenly there's a tournament, and you're like, oh.
Yeah. I was pretty surprised to find out the tournament was going on, and but pleasantly surprised. It's really cool to see that. Well, I guess for people who were not in that, so the alpha community just organized a tournament all by themselves and started playing tournament ladders in BattleCon Online, and that was super cool. Just to see that kind of happen organically was really neat. As the creator of the game, that people are so interested and invested in playing this game that they just organize themselves and create tournaments. I think it's real cool.
Yeah, you know some cool stuff that actually happened behind the scenes on that, like.
Yeah, tell me about it.
Oh my gosh! So the guy who was coordinating the tournament, Wine Bird, actually talked to me about it, and I was like, "Oh, dude, you should totally do a tournament." Because he was like thinking about it. He's like, I'm planning to organize a tournament and then record the games and then upload all of them onto YouTube. I was like, "Oh, dude, you should totally do that. Like, it's great that you're thinking about this. Please do it." And then he just did it. I was like, "What's going on? I can't believe this is happening." And then
isn't it cool?
Oh my gosh, it's so cool. He organized the tournament, but more than that, he was like, "Oh man, I need all of this architecture for like recording the games and like getting replays and all that stuff." And here's something that blew my mind. So Seki or Cameron was the one who was like, "Oh, no problem, dude. Like we can like help you set up the tournament and help you like get friend matches going on and stuff like that." But what really blew my mind was that the community ended up figuring out how to send each other replays in BattleCon Online.
Huh. So they got that all worked out all on their own?
Yeah, so it's way more interesting than you'd think, because when I was thinking about doing a tournament like this, I was like, okay, so I'll have them record on their side, and then record on one side, and then send all the data here, which means that the players would essentially have to download some screen cap software to do the tournament, right?
Yeah.
But then the community just figured out, hey, can't we just look into the data files of BattleCon Online, extract the file that contains the replay of the game we just played, send that to the tournament organizer, and then he can put that in his game, and then just watch the replay native in game.
Ah, okay. Well, that's cool. Does it still show the correct usernames and everything then when you play it in your other client?
It does, because
Wow.
the usernames I think are tied to the replay, so it's crazy because now
That's great. 'Cause that's like one step away from spectator mode. So yeah,
is essentially one step away from spectator mode, and I was like,
yeah.
and then yeah, so the community is great. The tournament's still ongoing. There's some.
That's awesome.
There's the matches are being uploaded. I'm putting them all on social media. It's great. We have a few favorites. Cameron and I actually talked about this in the last episode, but there are a few favorites going into the tournament. Hectrum's there, Elephant's there, Charles is there. So,
Yeah. It's a pretty star-studded BattleCon cast. That's quite exciting.
Oh man, I'm excited.
Well, yeah. Well, aside from that, I don't know. It's just cool. An organized play is coming together. We got all the organized play prizes in yesterday, and we sorted those out. So we're going to be sending them out in February. So if you've played online games in real life or on the online tabletop league, then your prizes are going to be coming out in the next week or two. So make sure you put in your address on the address form so that we can send you those cool rewards, those fabulous prizes that we always talk about on here.
Oh yeah, those amazing promos for Pixel Tactics, Exceed, and BattleCon. So Brad, now that we've shot the breeze, I said it correctly for once.
Yeah.
Oh, now that we've shot the breeze, Brad, care to tell me what you've been listening to? Because I think we talked about a sneak peek of what we were listening to last time we were on this podcast together. So what have you been listening to this week?
So the thing I've probably put the most time listening into has been audiobooks. I actually enjoy audiobooks quite a bit. I'm listening to all of the Brandon Sanderson books, and I've gotten through Mistborn already. I'm now in the middle of The Way of Kings, which is the first book of Stormlight, which is a very long series. This is like a 50-hour-long audiobook.
Oh, jeez.
And I guess I'd say I'm about halfway through at this point, and it's really interesting. It's a little bit of a slow start. Like Mistborn's much more of a like gets right into the world and the story.
Mm-hmm.
But this one, Stormlight's kind of a slow burn, and so this really detailed culture fantasy world. I'm pretty envious of Brandon Sanderson's world building. So, but yeah, the book is really great, and I'd encourage you guys who are on like Audible or whatever your audiobook service of choice is to check out The Way of Kings, and also Mistborn as well. Anyway, what have you been listening to, Marco? Tell me about yours.
Oh my gosh, this is gonna like pale in comparison to what you just said, because audiobooks are a learned thing. That's like it actually enriches your life. It enriches your life to listen to those things. So what I've been listening to it's technically not a recent discovery. I've actually been listening to this for a long time, and it's a specific song. It's Another Brick in the Wall. You know that song?
No, I haven't heard this song.
By Pink Floyd. Yeah, I'm not gonna sing it, but like, so Pink Floyd has a song called "Another Brick in the Wall," and it talks about school education system, how the school education system isn't necessarily always correct for everyone, and how it's like creating generations of people who just conform and all that stuff. We don't need no education. We don't need no thought control. We don't want to be another brick in the wall or something like that, right?
I see.
So I actually didn't know that this was a Pink Floyd song, because the version I've always been listening to is by Seiku Nagaoka. I don't know how to pronounce that name. Basically, this singer has a version of this song that makes it sound so different because from the like alternative rock from Pink Floyd, it essentially turns into disco. So there's now a
Uh-huh.
disco version of this song, and I found it originally around a few years ago because somebody made a fake Persona 5 OST set list. They said
Uh-huh.
this is the soundtrack of what Persona 5 will sound like. And I kid you not, it does kind of sound like a Persona song. So if you guys want to listen to what
Well, I mean, J-pop sounds like Persona. Just Persona sounds like J-pop, and vice versa. So
exactly. I mean like
or J-disco.
oh no, but it even does the thing where like the vocals sound sort of like Lotus Juice, the people who did Persona 3's soundtrack.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Huh.
so it's that. So if you guys want to listen to that and listen to more of my Western music mixed in with weeb anime culture, it's in the comment section down below. But that's what I've been listening to. I know it's kind of not as good as listening to the entirety of the Mistborn series, but
But it won't
hey,
take you as long either.
that's true. That's true. That's true. All right, Brad. So before we go to our next segment, can you please tell me whether or not you're going to do a character of the week or you're going to talk about development?
Um, I would like to talk about development, and I think I want to shift towards talking to development more. As much as I like doing like characters of the week and such, I think that like we already have the character of the week on the blog, and I feel like that is a better place to digest that information because it's all like right there.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we should probably stop doing character of the week in favor of talking about like development mechanics and progress on projects and like even just talking about our favorite game mechanics.
Oh my gosh.
So maybe our listeners will chime in and tell me what they think about that.
Yes.
Do you want more characters? Do you want more like game design philosophy type stuff, or do you want like a rousing political, philosophical, theological discussion with Marco and Brad about the nature of life, the universe, and everything?
Or
Tell us in the comments.
do you want us to read racing fan fiction? Who knows?
Racing, yeah, we could read racing fan fiction
Okay.
as well, I suppose.
so remember we've been asking for a name for this new segment, right? And we
Yeah.
found one. Somebody in the comments in one of our previous videos suggested the pipeline because usually it's Brad talking about stuff that's upcoming or talking about his development process, which is technically a pipeline. So welcome to the pipeline where Brad talks about development. Brad, tell me, what do you want to talk about this wonderful week in this wonderful podcast?
Well, I think this time I'll talk about one of the, I guess, innovations of development that we've had. And this is probably not going to sound terribly exciting to some of you who've done a lot of design, but it's something that I have fouled up a lot of times. And it's something that probably my biggest mistake with Seventh Cross in the development of this whole game. So, building a core concept for your game. And this is something that I have, like, kind of not done in the past. In a lot of my games, I get an idea and then I just shoot into the dark until I hit something cool. And that's kind of how BattleCon and how Millennium Blades came to be. Millennium Blades maybe not so much, but definitely my earlier games, like Pixel Tactics and such. So what do I mean by that? I mean going into the game's design phase with only an idea and without a roadmap of any kind.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Right?
I see.
So
I see.
like when you're going to write a thesis or a paper or something, you put together an outline. When we're going to do a new game, we put together a core design document. So this document is a list of all of the game's big idea, the overview, target player counts, playtime, genres, and then a list of all of the mechanics and how they create the feeling of the game that we're shooting for.
Mm-hmm,
How those mechanics really work within the game. Now, on the and then beyond that, we do a second report where we check all the other games in the market and say, what other games out there are doing similar stuff, are like use these mechanics, use this theme. What are the most popular games and why are they the most popular games? And make sure that our design team and our development team have played all those games in advance before they start working on the new game. That way we don't get halfway through the development of this new thing and say, oh, it's already been done and it's done really well and we don't want to do this again.
Yeah,
Because that
definitely.
also happened a lot in the development of Suncross.
Oh, really? What things did you tend to bump into? Was it Gloomhaven?
I think a lot of it was Betrayal at the House of the Hill that I bumped into. And a lot of it
Ah,
was Arkham Horror. And a
okay.
lot of it Pathfinder adventure card game. Um, stuff like that. Like and a little bit of Aeon's End even. I mean, we encountered a lot of things that if I had a solid design right up front, I'd said like this is what I want, um, and it stuck to that the whole way through, then it would have made the game a lot more a lot more complete. I wouldn't have had to go through 35 versions to get the right game.
You think how many
And
versions it would have taken you? Like what?
I
10?
don't know, maybe like 8 or 9.
Oh man,
So
I see.
so I might have saved like a year if I had started this off with a good plan in mind, as opposed to just a good idea.
Huh. So I have a quick question here because I'm technically a budding game designer myself, and I would like to know certain things about this new concept that you've brought into this podcast, Brad. And here's the thing: like, what constitutes a core concept to a game? Like, what's the core concept of Seventh Cross?
Hmm. Well, it might be best if I tell you about Imperial, since we've released a lot more on that.
Oh, okay,
Let me
sure,
open
go.
up my Imperial document and I'll walk you through it.
Sorry, you just said
So
let let me
I'm in the
open.
process of writing down all the mechanics for Southern Cross. So this one I was actually finished for
Oh,
Imperial.
I see. Sorry.
Um,
By the way, next time,
yeah.
please, like when you have something called an imperial document, you can't just say, "Oh, let me open my imperial document." You have to say it like, "Oh, let me now bring forth the imperial document." Yeah, I mean,
I guess.
you
I
gotta get
guess. I guess.
some bravado, Brad. Bravado.
Okay. Okay. Let me bring forth the Imperial document. Like
Yeah,
that.
perfect.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. Great. Great. So it starts with overview, title, Imperial, spells and Steam, and then the one shot tagline. Imperial Spells and Steam is a game of railway building, company development, and contract fulfillment in an early industrial fantasy world. And that tells you kind of everything you need to know about the game in one sentence. And then I write like a 3-paragraph description, which is real short, like the text that would be on the back of the box. And it tells you a little bit more about the game. So, as a captain of industry, it's your job to bring the industrial age to the magical world of Indians, build railways, connect key resources to your network, then supply them to cities around the world. Each magical resource you harvest will enable new technological developments that improve your capabilities. Each contract you fulfill will build up your company's infrastructure, leading to the development of new company-specific powers. Mine mana from the land to enable the construction of more lines, balancing the opportunities of the moment against the depleting environment and the machinations of your competitors. Only the savviest and most creative industrialist will be able to lead the world into the modern era.
That sounds
So,
awesome.
yeah, right. Like that's the idea. You want something that will sound really good right off the page, that will give you an idea of what this game is really about without getting too deep into the mechanics just yet. Specifications: player count 2 to 5, playtime 30 minutes, intensity medium, and then I talk about who the game is targeted for. This is kind of a family style game. Definitely, we want to try and reach out to railway fans as well. But we're mostly also targeting people who are interested in the world of Indians and kind of in a gateway game with what do we call it? A gateway game with depth, which is what we're trying to make with this game.
So you're trying to bring people from Indians into the other parts of the library, kind of like what you tried to do with Argent
And
too.
and the other way too. We want to bring people from who are railway fans into the world of Indians.
Ah,
So, but then talk about like the size of the box, the price of the box, like a quick overview of the components that we're planning, um, and just big things like does it have miniatures or does it have like a special kind of board, that kind of stuff. Like what are the main components? I don't need to list every card in the game. There's a full story overview, like all the plot that happens in Imperial, since this is a canon game in the world,
yep.
and then a list of the mechanics and talks about how what each mechanic is supposed to bring to the game. Finally, then I talk about the style of the game and how it's going to look and what kind of art styles we're going to bring involved and all that. And so that those parameters all together form the core design document. And Anyway, maybe I'll post it after this talk, so you guys can take the template and use it for your own games.
Yeah, I'd love to do that for my arcadey, slidey, shooty MOBA board game that I made. I think that'll be
So
pretty
many
cool.
adjectives.
Hey, read the first one-liner you made for Imperial again. Just read it again.
Okay. Imperial Spells and Steam is a game of railway building, company development, and contract fulfillment in an early industrial fantasy world.
Yes. See, that didn't have a lot of adjectives, but it was filled with buzzwords, which is essentially what I just did.
Okay, yeah, sure.
So just because I put Y's at the end of my words.
It'll be very gamey, Marco.
Yeah,
once you finish it.
Yeah, it'll taste not so good. Oh my gosh, in the previous episode, man, Cameron and I talked about hating gamey meat. Gamey meat. No likey.
Yeah. Is this like the meat that you get in Zelda Breath of the Wild?
No.
Or Monster Hunter?
I mean, technically, it's gamey meat usually comes from animals that you don't really expect to usually eat, like deer,
Yeah.
or like moose.
What? People expect to eat deer?
Well, I guess not for me, but like deer has gamey meat. So if you've ever eaten deer, that's what I'm talking about.
I see. Okay.
Anyway, so Brad, so I think this is a very interesting concept because I think a lot of the biggest pitfalls in game design, and like, so I can't really speak much on the game design front, but as somebody who makes a lot of custom characters for BattleCon and somebody who helps other people design custom characters for BattleCon, I feel like this is something that everybody doesn't really know. Like, it seems like something that should be like brain dead obvious, but everybody just seems to think like, the moment they have a good idea, you like stick to it and then you run it. Like,
I think that's really part of the craft of designing something, is that you have a process, and the process is repeatable, and the process turns out at the end result that you are looking for. And it's a difference between being a hobbyist and being a craftsperson, that you have when you're a hobbyist, you have a cool idea and you want to make it, and you look at what else is out there and you say, okay, well, this is how other things were made, I'll just make my thing in this fashion, and you put all the pieces together and make it. Whereas when you're building it as more on a professional kind of level, you want to have a strict structured process. I follow the steps 1, 2, 3, and that generates the end result that I'm looking for, and the reliability of that process. Because when you're just generating random things and seeing what works, it could take years and years, and that's why a lot of games you see on the market, like, oh, I spent 10 years on my game, or I spent 15 years on my game, or I've been developing this in my garage for the past 20 years, and probably doing just as much work on it as a professional would, but a professional turns out a game every 3 to 6 months, and a hobbyist can take years. And it's a lot of that is going to be due to process and the way that you approach the problems that you find.
Yeah, that's so very true. And also maybe like, the amount of time you actually put into it. Like, I don't know, maybe you spend 8 hours of your day designing games, they spend 1, right? So it's like,
sometimes, I mean, even when I was doing games as a hobby, I would take whole days and just work on games. And it doesn't take that long to build a prototype. It takes a long time to figure out what you want your prototype to be. Or rather, to figure out if you've made the right prototype.
I thought you were going to say, it doesn't take long to make a prototype. It takes long to make a good one.
That's true too. Although the goodness of your prototype is not always a big deal.
Oh, because it is a prototype, right?
Yeah, unless you're going to show it to reviewers and stuff in advance.
Okay, I see. Man, this has been very insightful. Great. Now I kind of... Like, okay, you better send me that document before I upload this podcast so I can also link it.
Sure.
So now the podcast will have extra links. So one of them will be a very insightful document that you can probably use to better yourself. The other one is J-pop. So, well, what does Marco contribute here? Anime. Okay, no, but seriously.
All right. Well, anyway, do you want to get on to our 99 questions and wrap things up?
Oh man, yes. Also, I misheard you, and I thought you said Brad things up, and I was like, okay. So, Brad, Are you ready for our 99 question segment where we ask you some hot pressed questions that you may or may not deliver straight to our lovely ears?
Okay, these verbal acrobatics are twisting me up in knots, Marco.
Oh my
But
God.
why don't you deliver the questions directly to my ears,
Okay, I will.
and then I will deliver an answer onto this podcast.
Okay, and then that podcast will go into people's ears. We've done
Sure.
it. We figured
Whatever
it out.
whatever way you decide to use it, I'm not gonna follow up and check.
Okay. This podcast goes into my eyes. Huh? What?
It's all subtitled.
Oh, yes. It's subtitled through my earphones. Okay, so first question. What is it like at level 99 HQ? Number of employees, office type, atmosphere.
Well, so the level 99 games HQ, I guess the physical location is my own home office, and me and Josh, who goes by Ithri on the forums, work here in my place, and then Laura Total Havoc, our graphic designer, works works over in. I guess the real answer is that the office is kind of digital, and everybody works from all around the world. Laura's in Chicago, Cameron's in Australia. Nocomento and Marco and Ian, Wicked Alucard, are both in the Philippines, or all three in the Philippines. We have an artist in Canada. We have a couple artists, like Fabio's in Portugal. So we're all kind of all over the place. And our office is actually just a Discord server that's the Level 99 company server. And we get together in the different chat rooms and we talk about our projects and we move things forward. And that's kind of what we... how we work is we do almost all of our work online.
Mm-hmm.
As far as the atmosphere, we try to make it a friendly atmosphere, and we're all friends. We all tell jokes and chat, and hang out around the proverbial digital water cooler. So
Okay. Yeah. Sorry, it's just you just gave me the image of all of us in like business suits just around a water cooler, and I'm like, this doesn't fit any of us. No, nobody in the quote unquote office would actually fit in my imagination in an office setting. It's like, what's Nocomento without all of her like anime boys, or me without all of my anime music, or like forcing Cameron to actually eat. Oops. Okay, wait. Somebody's at the door. Wait, excuse
at
me.
the door, isn't it like midnight over there?
All right. Okay, so, okay. Are you ready for the next question, Brad?
Yep, I'm ready.
So, what does Exceed do that BattleCon doesn't, and vice versa?
Well, I would say that first off, it's really more about the feel of the game. So, BattleCon is a full information game. It's very chess-like in execution. It is about understanding exactly what your opponent can do, and playing around that, and using your abilities to the fullest to exploit their weaknesses, and in this full information setting. Exceed, however, is not a full information setting, and that makes it a very, very different game, because at Exceed, you have to play the move that you believe is the best, and based on what your opponent has. And so the situation is not as zero-sum. For example, in BattleCon, there's some moves you just, at certain times, in certain positions, you just can't do because of what your opponent has in their hand. It's not a viable play. But in Exceed, every card is viable considering what your opponent has available to them. So if your opponent has a certain hand composition, dive might be the best move, but if they have a certain different hand composition, then an assault might be the best move. And if they have something else, even then sweep might be the best move. All this boils down to the player's intuition and what they want to play. So I'd say BattleCon is more a game about playing around your opponent, playing what you can, and Exceed is more about playing the way that you want to, and to playing to your intuition.
Yeah. Okay. So I was about to say something along these lines, right? BattleCon is very much a game about what can my opponent do and what can I do to mess with that. Whereas Exceed is a game of this is what I do.
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody is in what's the word, has control of the pacing at one moment or another during that game.
Yeah.
Also, I'd say if you come from a board game background and you like abstract strategies like chess or full information games, like BattleCon will give you that feel.
Mhm.
Whereas if you come from a card game background or you like LCGs, CCGs, those kind of games, Exceed will give you that feel. So a lot of it's maybe the difference between, I don't know, what's a good example? Like, difference between a board game and a card game. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely, because it's very different experience. And as a player, actually, I've come to realize that Exceed and BattleCon are kind of like weird alternate twin brother sisters. Because it's like on the surface level they look like the same game, right? Because there's a board and their characters fighting, but everything about the games to their core is very, very much different. I talked to a few of the community members, and one of them actually described what I've been trying to explain, what I feel the Exceed experience is in relation to BattleCon. But it's basically like this: if you are new to the game, BattleCon's the hard one and Exceed's the easy one. But the more and more experience you get, it inverses. BattleCon becomes the quote unquote easier one, and Exceed becomes the harder one to play. Because at higher levels of Exceed, you don't only need to know how to calculate attack matrices, because that's ultimately what BattleCon's all about, calculating possibility matrices. In Exceed, you also have to card count and hand manage and resource manage and everything. So it gets really complex in the later stages.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty fair assessment. It's definitely a difference in the skill plateau. Like BattleCon starts pretty tough, but once you get over that hump, it's a lot easier to go. Exceed, you have this kind of gradual build up, but the skill, I guess, cliff where you like start going up, starts to involve a lot more of those sorts of things.
Yeah.
But as for me, I'm pretty casual, and I like to just play my games by intuition. So even with BattleCon, I like to look at the board and say, well, what do I really want to do here? So I like to play characters that can retain control of the pacing of the match.
Yeah. And that's why you like characters like Pendros.
Brawlers, yeah. Brawlers.
Brawlers. Oh my god. You were you the one who decided that we should have those tabs that separate characters by classifications?
No, that was Laura's idea.
Okay, Laura has brought on horrible things onto all of our Discord servers because she has effectively created an icon for brawlers, right? So
yep, and now it's a chat meme.
Yeah, it's a chat meme. Is mayonnaise a brawler, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So are you ready for the last question and maybe perhaps the final set of conversations we'll have on this podcast, Brad?
Yeah, let's do it. Wait, the final conversation on this specific podcast. I'll see you next week, right?
Yeah, and on this specific episode.
Okay, go for it.
All right. So with all of the MB expansions adding to the core deck, how would you recommend changing setup? For example, we randomly remove the number of core cards that have been added, and so on and so forth. So what other things do you recommend to, mix up setup?
Well, Millennium Blades is a pretty robust game, and so it'll function regardless of what you put into the deck. If you feel like you can see too many core sets in your game, I'd say take out a couple, just deal out and take away a bunch of the core cards. But I don't recommend doing anything different than the base game setup when like the normal. I don't recommend any changes to setup. If you really don't want to see core, you can create two stores, one that has all the core decks and one that has all the expansions. And so you can always buy the top core set, and you can buy like one of each of the expansions. Or rather, you can buy not one of each, but the 9 slots in the store are actually filled with expansion and premium and master level cards. And then there's a separate deck that is just core cards, and you can buy from that directly.
Oh, that's actually such a good idea.
I don't totally recommend that, but if you want to try mixing things up, that's a thing you can do.
Oh, well, I think I got mind blown by that because it helps a lot for cleanup, not having to separate the core cards from everything else.
Yeah, it does. It does. The thing is that the core cards also have the highest value ratio. So if you buy any kind of card in the game, you usually lose money, except if you buy a core set card. You're on you're likely to gain money because of how many like cool promos are in there, like Exaltius and stuff.
Right.
And the low price of the core set, so it can skew the balance a little bit towards money.
Right, because everybody will just buy core sets.
A lot of people will, and some of the expansions get to be really easy, like the Ducky maids. Like if they just show up, then you can just buy them all, and you don't have to really worry too much hard about whether or not you can collect the whole set.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, balance issue aside, it is a neat way to try the store. So if you want to try a different Millennium Blade setup, try something new, then give that a shot. See what you think.
All right, thanks, Brad. And that pretty much does it for our 99 questions for this week, featuring Brad and sometimes Marco. Marco doesn't really contribute that much sometimes, but hey, he's there. So,
Marco. I don't know how I feel about this self-deprecation.
No, sorry, because it was like I was supposed to make like a quick joke, and then I just didn't know when to stop. So that's what happened. So regardless, that pretty much does it for this episode of the Level Cap Podcast. If you guys like this podcast, please leave us a review, leave us a rating on all of your social medias or whatever.
Also, subscribe to us on YouTube, follow us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter.
Tumblr.
Tweet out. Yeah, Tumblr. Follow us on Tumblr. Then push up, down, left, right. A, B, start, select. And you'll get 99 lives, and YouTube can be level 99. But only if you do the first 5 steps before that.
Yeah, and this only applies for the first 99 people who do it. Man.
Anyway.
How'd you ever convince Tumblr to do that? How'd you convince Tumblr to give people immortality?
It's the miracle of the internet, Marco.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much. But yeah, if you guys like this podcast, aside from doing all of that stuff and gaining ultimate immortality for the rest of your life, please share this podcast with a friend. You know, if you like this podcast and feel like somebody else might be interested in it too, please share it with them. Word of mouth really helps us a lot, and it'll help us get our games and get our news to the people who will want to hear about them, and maybe introduce your friend to a couple of games they never knew they wanted to play.
And if you've been listening to this podcast, and you're like, what's that Discord thing that Marco and Brad keep talking about? The link is in the show notes, so check it out. Join the Discord, hang out with all the cool Level 99 folks, including us, and we'll see you there.
We'll see you there. So, as usual, it has been me, your host, Marco DeSantos, also known as Mechanic Critic, also known as M&M Kami, also known as The Guy. And with me has been my wonderful, wonderful co-host, the amazing, the indomitable, the unfallible...
Brad Salton. Ooh, and otherwise.